Have you been distressed or perplexed? Emasculated. A book written by Eric Fields IV. Everything that needs to be known about men in modern time. Listen, men are not complex. They are misunderstood and unappreciated. Learn what men really feel, think, and desire. Also observe their struggle for acceptance, love, and belonging. A must read for every man in this classic book by Eric Fields IV. Emasculated. Go get your copy now. Is Derrick Jaxn a narcissist? Narcissists like self-reflection. Narcissists blame everyone else. Narcissists will gaslight you and make you think you're the issue. Is Derrick Jaxn really a narcissist based on the evidence?
Yeah, we tried to warn you. It appears that Derrick Jaxn has filed for divorce from his wife. Derrick Jaxn's the type of guy that when Kevin Samuels was living, he tried to warn you about. And so many men in these spaces, as men like Derrick Jaxn lie to women, and they keep women in a state of suspended animation. Many men like Derrick Jaxn are actually narcissists or have narcissistic traits. And also men like Derrick Jaxn also have Machiavellian tendencies. What can we learn about this ongoing debacle where men in these spaces lie to women to garner favor or pander to women and tell them what they want to hear? Derrick Jaxn is the reason why so many women are suffering and dealing with mental health issues, because they don't tell them the truth. They lie to them. Where do we go from here? What say you?
Something to get off. Listen, this who we need. This who we need. Hold on. Holy water. Holy water, Lord, I cast all the demons of the sexual demons away, okay? I rebuke the sex demon. Lord Jesus, I rebuke him in the name of Jesus. His wife ain't finna cast no spells on me like I'm the problem, so I got my holy water for that ass, okay? All right, please keep all the sexual demons and the spirits away from me. All right, I don't want nothing of this man coming near me. All right, and in the words of our Lord and Father and Holy Savior, oh, you don't understand. You don't understand. God, listen.
We tried to tell you that boy won't no good.
In my palm, my girl, she know she the one. I put the ice on her hand, I put some ice on her arm. See me shining in the light, know you found me in the dark. Talking how you wanna leave, girl, you made this far. Taking trips overseas, no, I won't be long. We came up from the weeds, now it's top floor. All these big gets on her wrist, VVS is on her neck. Make it spinning, I don't stress. When I make it stretch. Double back to back then. Down broke, now we rich. Spend it on a let it spin. Down with me to the end. That my best friend. That my best friend. That my best friend. I'ma spend it on her, cause she all mine. That's me. Spend it on a challenge, cause she all mine. There for my first cake, then we hit 100K. $500,000 on the way, then $1 million on the way. Eating good for place, eating good, say grace. Eat her up, get thanks. She got cake birthday. I can't waste no way, I can't waste no play. My girl, whoa, something like the baddest chick. My girl, whoa, came from the rags to rich. Hit the road running, I had to tell her I had to get it. She understood, but she spoiled, so when she get mad, she dip. All these big yes on her wrist, VVS's on her neck. Make it spin and don't stress. When I make it stretch. Double back to back then. Down broke, now we rich. Spend it on her, let her spin. Down with me to the end. That my best friend. That my best friend. That my best friend. I'ma spend it on her, cause she all mine. Spend it on a challenge, cause she all mine. All these big yes on her wrist, VVS is on her neck. Make it spin and don't stress. When I make it stretch. Double back to back then. Down broke, now we rich. Spend it on her, let her spin. Down with me to the end. That my best friend. That my best friend. That my best friend. I'ma spend it on her, cause she all mine. All these big yes on her wrist, VVS is on her neck. Make it spin and don't stress. Spend it on a challenge, cause she all mine. That my best friend. That my best friend. That my best friend.
All right, guys, we're about to have a conversation on tonight, and the topic of discussion, synonymous to yesterday, is based on the evidence, as I have a panel of therapists that have seen narcissism. And we're not here to diagnose anybody, but we're going to look at the characteristics associated with Derrick Jaxn. Is Derrick Jaxn a narcissist? And if he is a narcissist, who is part in, or more or less, helping him with his narcissistic supply? Get your pens and paper ready, guys. We're going to have a comprehensive show tonight. Let's go. One minute.
20, 50, hundreds, tens, 20, 50, hundreds, tens.
that Derrick Jaxn is laughing to the bank, stealing money from innocent women, and messing up the message as men are trying to guide and lead righteous women in a state of truth. What say you?
Left it to the bank like I got any 10s, 20, 50, 100s, 10s, 20, 50, 100s, 10s, 20, 50, 100s, 10s, 20, 50, 100s. I get it, I flip it and continue. I've been going dumb, I've been going mental. Going up, I'm on another level. All black clothes like a medal. Little this and this, little Ricky Rick. It's my grandmama, I'm her Nicky Nick. I just wanna love, but I've been hit or miss. I might up and leave, never take a pic. Laugh it to the bank like ha 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 ha. Laugh it to the bank like ha 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 ha. I got any 10s, 20, 50, 100s, 10s, 20, 50, 100s, 10s, 20, 50, 100s, 10s, 20, 50, 100s.
Have you been distressed or perplexed? Emasculated. A book written by Eric Fields IV. Everything that needs to be known about men in modern time. Listen, men are not complex. They are misunderstood and unappreciated. Learn what men really feel, think, and desire. Also observe their struggle for acceptance, love, and belonging. A must read for every man in this classic book by Eric Fields IV. Emasculated. Go get your copy now.
All right, guys, we're going to chop it up and drop some fire for your mind on tonight as I have 3
Fire for your mind.
That's going to drop some
Kosher
fire for your mind.
commission.
I have my man Edward Fields from the book entitled Emasculated in the house. How you doing, Brother Edward? How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great.
And also I got my man.
Can you hear me well?
Yeah, I can see you perfect, man. And also I got my brother all the way from the West Coast, Brother Shocks, another therapist. As we as black men and black male therapists are going to more or less dissect and or break down the Derrick Jaxn phenomenon. Now, before we start, I want to start with you, Brother Fields. Tell the audience who you are and why you're so passionate about male empowerment and why you're so passionate about seeing men get the best outcomes in modern times.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Kosher, and to the panel. Thank you all for coming here to have these discussions that most of us in our communities don't have the opportunity to have. So thanks everyone for stopping back. Hit that like button though before we even get started. Hit that like and share it. My name is Edward Fields. I'm a mental health therapist. I worked inpatient mental health. I do county mental health, and I worked outpatient mental health, and I'm also the author of The Emasculation of the American Male. So what brings me to address these concerns and to link up with you all and to write these books is that society needs to change. And a lot of people are not happy. A lot of people are suffering from mental health disorders. A lot of people are just plain unhappy with how society is going, and it's affecting our everyday lives. And a lot of people are struggling to really deal with that, to even have those conversations, to talk about these things. It's kind of taboo, and even, bringing these things up, it's problematic depending on what political standpoint you come from. So, platforms like Kosher, just really allow us to discuss these things and to really dig in. So, so that's my passion. I want to help society, change society, and, have it a better place, because ultimately, if you're going to live in a society, you need to make it better. and you need to work towards it. So so we could start that by hitting that like button. That's how we could start that, you know. So
all right, how you doing, Ed, fellow mental health clinician, and how you doing, Kosher? Thank you for having me. I'm known as Shocks 112, but I am a licensed clinician out of the West Coast. What impassioned me to get started with mental health care is growing up in the late 80s, early 90s, Watts, California. I was there in the projects when Menace to Society was being filmed, and I had friends and brothers involved in the gang life, on to me actually seeing how that and drugs and other things, you know, messed up my community. And I thought to myself, the conditions were the same as it was my father's generation, and what kind of kicked off, you know, that sort of violence. I felt that, you know, I wanted to make my life's mission to, you know, to stop the civil war, the self-inflicted and externally inflicted civil war that Black men, you know, have against ourselves. And, you know, I guess as I've been through the field, I've kind of more or less evolved to seeing things as far as the bigger structural issues at play that causes gang mentality, which is ultimately self-hatred. Okay. With that being said, get them likes up. You're going to enjoy the show. You're going to learn a little bit about what narcissism is and how you can develop an early warning system so that you're better apt to deal with it when coming across people of this sort.
I'm sorry, Shocks, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Kosher, I can't hear you.
Oh, you guys didn't hear me? I apologize.
There we go. Yeah,
There you go.
yeah, there we go.
I'm there running my mouth, man, to say today. But anyway, shout out to Red Lipstick Vibes. Red Lipstick Vibes, she played a role in the curation and also the editing part of the second one from Mr. Phil's book. I'm the voice. She was the editor. Go check out Red Lipstick Vibes. She will get you right. Her information is in the link. I also would drop her information, her contact information if you guys need some help. Trying to do three things at one point. But it appears that narcissism and self-delusion is on the rise. It appears to be happening at an all-time rate. But before you answer that question, shout out to my man Gregory Scott. He said, shout out to Kosher. Great show last night, but I picked up some things. I think Chris' intensity represents where Black men are tired of constantly explaining to Black women who are not getting it. Yeah, they're not getting it a lot of times, sadly, man. And your time on this earth is limited, and men don't have the time to continue to explain themselves, only to fall in their ears. And also shout out to my man Tim Howe. He said the best therapy is getting that passport and traveling, and a lot of men are beginning to do it. They're beginning to try to find traditional wives abroad and overseas. But the topic of discussion on the night is Derrick Jaxn, the narcissist, from a therapist perspective. And before we answer that question, I'm going to start with Brother Ed. What does narcissism mean to you, and how often do you see it in practice?
So, the big thing because of social media, it's a buzzword. People throw it around, right?
They're doing around, right?
Yep. It's only 6.2 community samples per DSM-4, DSM-5
Right.
that individuals diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. Now, I believe that number will go up due to social media. That's just my personal opinion. I think that we're in a self-indulgent, um, a society to where self means more than family and other people. So I believe those numbers will go up once samples are obtained. But it's kind of a fine line, right? Because we all have those traits to some degree. Okay. But for those individuals that have those traits, it's kind of on a deep end, right? Because we all could be selfish at times. Maybe to some degree, we believe in ourselves more than what other people may see, or we may project that certain thing. But it's usually a degree. So narcissism is just grandiose sense of self. So, I believe that I could conquer the world. I could do everything. Nobody could stop me. I'm the best thing ever. I'm better than everybody that invented and did something. It's just a degree of grandiosity that doesn't make sense, right? It's nothing empirical data that's backing that up. He or she may believe that they're important when most people, to other people, they're not that important. Most people are in their own worlds. They believe in themselves. They are going through their own problems in life, and they're not really focused on you. So when you walk in a room, most people think that everybody's just so concerned with me. Most people are in their own heads when it comes to that. But I think the key thing when you talk about narcissism, okay, so I'm not giving Derrick Jaxn a diagnosis because I'm not doing any diagnosis. No one's on this channel is doing a diagnosis, but it's the exploitative nature. So that's what it becomes danger, because you can think highly of yourself, and that doesn't matter to anyone else but yourself, as long as you're not projecting or really disturbing anyone with that. But when you start to exploit people, that's the big problem. And so that exploitative nature that Derrick Jaxn has done over the years, and I've watched it and I commented, and I had people troll me from his chats saying that, oh, you're a hater, and all these women are saying every man that's saying something, they're a hater. It's not that. It's just we know how men operate. We know how the pastor operated at church. Men understand words better than women. And so I think that's one of the things to where when a man is telling women and trying to tell them, hey, this guy ain't no good because he's saying this, and what I'm hearing, it doesn't sound good. It sounds good to them because a part truth sounds good. That's how you trick people. People don't realize that. If I just tell a fallacy, if I tell a lie and it's outlandish, yeah, most people won't believe that. But if I sprinkle some truth in that, oh, it's going to hook them. So people think, well, part of that was true, so I assume that the rest of it is true. It's no different than when people have inspections or they have audits. When people come into corporations to do audits, when they find the first two or three things bad, they know that 8, 9, and 10 is bad because you set that precedence. But if you come in and the first 3 or 4 things are okay, you will make the assumption that 8, 9, and 10 is good. And so what these individuals do, like Derrick Jaxn, you may take a little bit of truth and throw it out, and people will catch it. And so the back end of the message, you believe it because you say, well, the front end, he told the truth, so why would he lie about the back end? And that's where a lot of women got captured with this, So it's that exploitative nature that individuals do that's narcissistic, and it's a lack of empathy. So if you want to put that towards, I'm making money off people and I don't care how they live. Yeah, they're giving me all their money, but they live in the ghetto and they can't feed their kids. Yeah, that's very exploitative.
Kosher brother, you there?
Your book talks about
there
the
we go.
masculation of men. Your book talks about that. And is it safe to say that Simps create narcissistic women? And if they do create narcissistic women, I want you to tell the audience how Simps create narcissistic women from your own purview.
Is that me or Shocks? I'm sorry.
Well, either one of you brothers can take it.
You mind repeating that question? Sorry, I only heard part of it.
I was asking you guys, how do y'all feel that simps create narcissistic women? Because it's safe to say that narcissism or the narcissistic traits is a byproduct of entitlement. How do simps create narcissistic women? And in your book, Edward, does your book talk about that?
Yeah. So I'll address it and I'll let Shots go if he doesn't mind. So yeah, simps do that. So it's one of the things, if you look back, anyone who dated in like the 80s, the 90s, and kind of the earlier I'd say the mid 2000s, where when you really had to go out and meet people, the internet didn't really help people with dating. So you actually had to go out, you had to get rejected, you had to have face-to-face interaction, and you really had to be in the mud with it, right? And interact with people. Now, because of online, you can send a message and you can hide behind the screen and say whatever you want to. And you don't have to worry about rejection or embarrassment. You can just say what you want to. And so when these women online get all these likes, it's that dopamine hit. So it's like, oh, well, you know what? I got this guy that liked me, and he's just an average guy. Okay, whatever. But I got all these guys in my inbox. I got hundreds and hundreds of messages in my inbox saying that I'm cute. Now, whether they really believe that they're cute or not at some point, that doesn't matter. But at some point, they do believe that because they began to get all these likes. And so it's like anything else. It's like if you as a man go out and you go to your local lounge and you're dressed up, and every night you go, you have different women hitting on you, say, hey, you look great, your suit look nice. At some point, you're going to believe that, hey, I'm the man. And so it's no different with women. So I don't blame them for that. I actually blame the simps that really empower them to be like that. Because you can have a woman 600 pounds, and no diss to the big women, because I know that's a big thing online, but you can have a woman 600 pounds that don't shower for weeks, and guys online can say, hey, you the best looking, I've seen it. You the best looking thing ever. I want to be with you. This, I treat you good. And they even have the entitlement of a model that's a 10. So yes, online do perpetuate the idea of that I'm better than what I am. And I think men don't really get to have that luxury. And listen, there's no need to complain about it. You know, you as a man, you can't put makeup on. You just face what you got. You look the way you look. It's up to you to get money, to work out or whatever, but you have to put an effort into it. And I think so a lot of women, they don't have to put that effort. Yes, some do, but a lot don't. And they don't have to put that effort in. And so these simps contribute to that, to bigging their heads up. And then, you know what? Hey, once people big my head up so much, I started to believe that. And now my personality begins to change.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, I want to ask you a question, Brother Shocks. How rampant is narcissistic personality from your experience as a therapist out in LA? How rampant do you see it? And do you see it mostly in men or women? We know it's mostly a male narcissistic personality disorder is mostly a trait that men have. But how often do you see that diagnosis in women?
To be honest with you, I would say maybe about 25%, believe it or not.
Okay, talk about
1 in 4. So the people I've worked with, I do couples, I do individuals or whatnot, and it tends to come out when, a big trait of narcissism is the influencing of other people's behavior. Now, that's a nice way of putting it, but in other words, it's manipulation. And
Right.
so there's an end goal that people have when it comes to the process by which they want to influence people's behavior, whether it is giving people's compliments, such as love bombing. It could be having attitudes. It could be gaslighting, which is the flat out and utter denial of a particular, offense, or even, using people as proxies for their ultimate will, or other people to gang up on a particular person. Now, narcissists usually look for a particular currency. Now, it could actually be money, It can actually be a sort of emotional high when it comes to a particular power dynamic. It could be status, like, for example, if someone is saying my education, my degree, but yet the income, social circles, or pedigree may not necessarily reflect those things. And all of this is synergized with an environment where people are told be an individual, be an individual, be an individual. And that sort of hyper individualism kind of only fuels that. Okay. That with an echo chamber of, other friends and other people who validate this sort of behavior. So having the sort of mindset and the means by which you tell an individual of whom you don't know, where you even disregard your own personal, let's say, safety, right? What if you do go out with a Pookie and a Ray Ray, and for the ultimate means of getting dinner or drinks, putting yourself in this situation? So
Right.
there's times where narcissists don't even care about their own personal well-being or their own personal judgment, or the fact that you might be out with a lady, and the type of lady who's excuse my French, a shit starter. Okay. She wants that sort of dopamine or endorphin high, to which to say, oh, my man did that, right?
Right.
Despite any sort of consequences that he may suffer or she may suffer. Okay. So these are things that people might want to be mindful of, especially when it comes to feeling as though your behavior is being influenced. So you ask yourself, what is the motivations? What is the end goal here? Okay. And the best way to deal with the narcissist is what I like to call the gray rock method. The gray rock method is simply a response to where it's a neutral response, because if you're too demure, obviously they're going to walk all over you. If you're too direct, then it would only further validate their position. So being lukewarm, where you're neither here or neither there and non-responsive, eventually a narcissist will just, go on about their business. They'll get bored. Okay. Almost like a lion. The more a prey moves around and struggle, the more the lion gets off. The more you just kind of like, whatever, the less they'll do any sort of interaction, and that's the best way to deal with them. Because there's a what they call narcissistic rage, when they've been found out and they feel naked. Okay. And because part of their mentality is that they think that everyone else is their peons and to serve them. Okay. And you have the audacity not to do that. There's a rage. It could be an attitude, it could be throwing stuff, it could be violence, it could be trying to ruin your reputation. Okay. One could talk about allegedly Derrick Jaxn, but there's another pointed example, allegedly, with the Amber Heard and Meg the Stallion, with the things going on with that too. Okay. So just sit back and watch, gentlemen, and be mindful of this, because these cases aren't atypical of what people are doing on an everyday basis. Very dangerous, very risk heavy. All right. Whether it's your legal livelihood or your finances and reputation.
Like the thing with narcissism, a lot of it is a byproduct of social dysfunction. Most narcissists are the beneficiaries of neglect and abuse many times. And what they do, guys, they overcompensate to assuage that fragile ego. Narcissists need a supply, man. They got to get a supply in order to help them deal with their inadequacies. Many narcissistic people are very inadequate. But, however, just because a person has narcissistic traits doesn't mean that they are a narcissist. Edward, what does your book address in Emasculation about how to deal with narcissism as a whole? How does your book address that? And in the meantime, guys, get the likes up, share this stream, share the content, please, and get the likes up. But go ahead, and how does your book address that?
I think the biggest thing is to really be able to identify, and that's what your channel is doing, putting information out there so people can identify. because if you don't have a certain mentality to deal with individuals like this, they can destroy your life, whether financially, whatever, physically, getting you arrested, making you lose money, emasculation. So it doesn't matter. So I think the best thing is to be able to identify it and be able to move on and not engage with these individuals unless you're built for that. And so, that's one of the things where, like, hey, when he just spoke about that gray area, not really responding if you respond less or respond too much, but being in that gray area to where, like, I don't have anything to feed off of. But if you're an individual that, I wouldn't necessarily say this or recommend this, but to play that game and be able to outmatch them, well, most people can't,
right,
then that's just a whole different ball game. So I would say for the average person to really, just be able to identify these characteristics and trust yourself, because that's the thing. And when it comes to gaslighting, somebody's gaslighting you, you start to second guess everything. Right. Did I say this? Did this happen? And you're thinking like, no, this did happen. And they're saying, no, this didn't happen. This is what you said and did. And once an individual gets you to start second guessing yourself, it's a bad deal for you.
Right.
So you really have to be grounded with dealing with these individuals. So, and this is what your channel is about, men being grounded in what they're doing, being on your purpose, identifying the people that you're around to be able to elevate yourself. And those things are very important with dealing with individuals that have those narcissistic characteristics, that, you're able to ground yourself and say, well, you did say this, and you know what? I'm not engaging in that. I'm not dealing with you anymore because I got better things to do. That's actually the best way to deal with those individuals. Because I think even if you can play the game, you got to look at it. If you're playing that game with those individuals, you're losing time and energy. So the best thing is not put yourself in a position where you're losing time and energy by even trying to match that. Yeah, you probably could do that and play games like them, but in the long run, them playing games mean nothing to them, but it means everything to you. Right. So it's one of those things to where, being able to identify and move on and not deal with these individuals, that's actually the best way to deal with these individuals from my perspective.
No doubt. Shock said, have you dealt with narcissistic women in your practice, but also in general? Have you dealt with narcissistic women? And if so, how did you deal with them?
I don't see Shocks there. I think he might have disconnected.
You disconnected? You got to mute yourself. Shocks, unmute yourself, brother. All right, so let me ask you a question. Greg with Scotland said, Coach, can you ask Errol if he saw the show last night? What does he think about your two guests who pushed against the emasculation of men?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily think they pushed again. I think it was just two perspectives. So I'm sorry, what was the guy name that was on here?
It was Ted Santos.
Oh yeah, Mr. Santos. Okay. I think he had a different perspective because he was overseas, and so he was able to see and interact with individuals overseas. And I say this all the time. I was in the military. I was in the Air Force. I traveled the world. I've been to Guam, Japan, Korea. And I think people, my opinion, I think people overseas tend to be more hospitable, kind of like that down south saying, like when you go down south, individuals are more hospitable. I think going overseas, people were more welcoming. It was like, hey, do you want to eat with us? And do you want this? And I think the women actually kind of gravitate towards that. I've actually hung out overseas in Guam. And, the women like, hey, we love American man because it's a different perspective, right? It's no different than, passport bros going overseas and trying to meet women. It's a different perspective. I think the lady, what was her name? I'm sorry. I couldn't remember her name.
Letitia.
Oh, yeah. Miss Letitia, she made a good point. And this point was very valid, what she was saying. She was saying that what's going to happen when passport bros going over to these countries, what do you think the men are going to do? Because no country, if you even look at wartime and you look at the history of man, they don't allow men to come in and to invade their space and to take their women.
Right.
And so I think that may be something in the future that, the passport bros do what you do, but I think that's something to really look at, because at some point, if you're going down to Colombia, if you're going to Korea and you're getting a women, and the locals there are losing a women to American men because of finances or they can't provide a certain thing, it may turn violent. So she was dead on with that. So I don't think that it was necessarily 100% pushback just to push back. I think they both had valid points because they traveled overseas. And so if you traveled overseas and you really interacted with people, you see a different perspective and why they were saying that. So I think that was a good, different perspective. I don't think it was just pushback just to push back. I think it was a great perspective on what may happen when those local men lose their women to American men that's traveling.
Yeah. How would you like to add to the conversation, Brother Shocks?
I'm sorry, I was just getting back in here and getting adjusted, so I might have missed a little bit of that. But you mind asking the question again? I'm sorry. As you can see,
I forgot what the question was.
The question was, what do you think about the pushback from last night's show from the two individuals who were saying about meeting women overseas?
Well, people gonna feel how they gonna feel, or whatever the case may be. People are gonna state however they're gonna state things, because there's definitely some self-interest involved or whatnot. I mean, we gotta expect that. My thing is, as they say, her dogs holler. So obviously we're moving the needle. So I mean, as somebody said it best the other day, if you really didn't care about anything that was going on, why are you in these spaces, and why do you have anything to say about it? I mean, shouldn't your time be best suited dealing with the so-called people that want you? Mm-hmm. So that's my.
Well, I think there's a theoretical implication and a practical implication. I think what Ted was saying is he was actually saying that he was correct, but he was saying it in a different way. His logic is from a theoretical, or what I call theo-philosophical perspective, that nobody can make you feel emasculated. It starts in your head. And in theory, that's true. But we still got to acknowledge how people feel when they feel disrespected.
Kosher, you mind if I address that? Because I wanted to address that last night, but I didn't want to.
Yeah, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, so most of the time, here's the thing. I agree to some degree when you're fully developed and you're a grown man, that at some point it becomes up to you to not allow other people to emasculate you, right? But most men don't grow up in that society, with a matriarchal society, to where it's the mom, it's the church, it's majority of families are probably like 60-70% of women, right? If you look at stories that happen, there's barely men in the pictures. You go to women's homes, there's barely a man in the picture. And so what happens is, usually directly or indirectly, boys end up getting emasculated by the mother, because she had a poor relationship growing up with her father, or a poor relationship with the baby daddy or the ex-husband. And so, those things to where, like, you look just like your dad, or you ain't gonna beat just like your dad, those things. And so once that started to get implanted, that child has to grow up and change their whole life perspective to realize that I'm not that. And you can even see in marriages, okay, having that contract, that state contract, to where men get married, they can be a whole man doing well or whatever, and they get into that contract and they fall lazy to being married, and now their wife is controlling. I've seen women just emasculate men in public, yell at them, call them bad words, in social settings, to where you're emasculating him, talking about his inadequacies with sex. Things that shouldn't be discussed publicly is being discussed, and these men sit and have to bite that bullet. Because I'm married, I just can't really say anything back. But even during divorce, I lose the kids, I lose the money, I got to start over from nothing. You get everything taken, whether I built it or not. And you can look on TikTok, it's men posting videos and saying, hey, I'm barely making it. I'm staying in a place $400 or $500 for rent, and I barely got furniture because I was making over $100,000, and I had a divorce, and she took everything. I've had homeless veterans like that. A lot of these homeless veterans was making over 100,000, got a divorce, and was in the homeless shelter. And so I was able to see a different perspective regarding that. So emasculation can come from a boy being brought up by his mother, or through the judicial system of being married and getting a divorce.
Yeah. And abuse and neglect plays a role as well, guys. Guys, get the likes up. I want to get more people on this stream because the book that Edward wrote, I think, is very important. Brother Shocks, when being a therapist, when you talk with certain clients, how often would you say you see entitlement manifest with a lot of the clients that you deal with?
You see entitlement manifest, honestly, a good 50% of the time. It is pretty present. And the thing is, it becomes a question of the chicken or the egg, whether or not it is them being a product of the culture, and there had been more or less a sort of critical mass that's been reached as a result of it, or people in their sort of own innate biological personalities, and it's just kind of manifested this way, and that it's been reinforced over and over and over again. And when it comes to entitlement, I don't think enough people are practicing what I like to say, good boundaries. The reason why you have simps exist, they're just simply people who do not know how to practice good boundaries. That, along with the entitlement, there's really no resistance to really calibrate appropriate and healthy interaction. And a lot of this comes with the sort of lack of general altruism when it comes to people in general, especially when it comes to our community. How many times have you went to a restaurant and you've seen people of other races, they gather in groups, family members, intergenerational and stuff like that. When you see Black folks, it's either on a date or alone. Okay. The same thing when it comes to the office place. We can't even hardly talk with each other. We're grateful of being the only Negro there. All right. And when we see somebody else there, it's a problem, or we're avoidant. Okay. So I think that, this is one of the things that the sort of currency of narcissism has not only come at the expense of self, but the expense of people by and large, and they're not really realizing it. So just as Ed stated earlier, normal people don't come into the room and think about, either how am I going to get over, or how am I somehow or another better than someone else. Animals think that way. Animals think about rank and hierarchy. Narcissists come in a room and think, I'm the most superior, and this is why. Whether it's, by virtue of materials, by virtue of perceived intelligence, by virtue of physical attributes, or whatever the case may be. So these are things to more or less think about. But it's very, very, very prevalent. Entitlements, not necessarily demonstrating earnesty for whether it's perceived status, a sort of treatment beyond what is basic and common for human decency and respect. So it is problematic.
I'm going to ask you guys a question. Well, not ask a question, but I'm going to break something down in a minute. But I call Derrick Jaxn, he's a snake whisperer, and consistent with theology, the snake whisperer spoke sweet nothings to Eve and led to the downfall of humanity. Women are often enticed through fancy words and things that more or less titillate their emotions and their feelings. We're going to talk about Derrick Jaxn being a potential snake whisperer, but also we're going to talk about psychopathy and Machiavellianism. Derrick Jaxn has at least two of those traits, in my opinion. But give me 1 minute, because we believe that Derrick Jaxn is a snake whisperer.
Follow me, baby. The elders are old and out of touch. I have the power to help you become the better version of yourself. Listen to me. I know what's best for you. I am the Snake Whisperer.
And true to a snake, guys, snakes are very duplicitous. Some will argue that Derrick Jaxn is very duplicitous. You know, he knows how to shed his skin and to gyrate from one image to another image. I'm sure you guys have seen it. And snake whispers are dangerous, as you said earlier, and I talked about it before in the past, Ed, because they speak a lot of half-truths, but mostly whole lies. Shout out to my man Top Gun for that $5 super sticker. Thank you, Top Gun. I appreciate it, brother. But we're going to get deep into it in a minute, but we're going to break this thing down. What does a snake whisper look like? And then we're going to ask ourselves the question while we're looking at it, why do so many women, guys, love Derrick Jaxn? Why do so many women love Derrick Jaxn? And we're going to see if the love of men like Derrick Jaxn has actually caused men to be emasculated. Hold tight. Gaslight. And a lot of times, folks, they fall for it because they don't know any better. They don't know any better. They fall for the hype. They fall for it because they don't know any better. But in the meantime, guys, get the likes up for me. If you have not donated to the channel, donate, because we're going to have a good show on tonight. I need you guys to donate to the channel, but also I would love to hear from some of the brothers that were former snake whisperers. And if you feel the snake whisperers are responsible for all the chaos in the current community, in the current world we live in, so hold tight.
Just because your business gets complex doesn't mean it has to get complicated. With Asana, adapt to new business needs, automate workflows, connect global teams, gain real insights so your team can light up the world. Try Asana.
Earning your degree online is closer than you think. Apply today to Purdue University Global.
As I said earlier, guys, we're going to talk about the traits of the modern preacher. I took some notes. Because, see, a righteous man seeks wisdom. Men that are righteous seek wisdom. They believe in family. They believe in structure. They believe in order, based on my notes. They don't try to steal the sheep from the fold. That's what righteous men do. They're not complicit in chaos because they know the structure and order is necessary in order to sustain a community. But snake whispers are self-serving. Many times snake whispers, you guys saw them in the past, they were drug dealers. You know, they were charismatic. They were drug dealers. Some of them had to do it because, you know, I'm not saying all drug dealers were snake whispers, but many times they were. And sometimes those men were snake whispers because of the trauma that they went through. Children that are at risk of man shocks with the $50 hitter. I appreciate your love. And because of your meritorious love offering, clinical therapist, Mr. Shocks, you are the #1 sponsor of this stream, brother. I appreciate it. All right, hold tight, guys. Give me 1 minute. Hold tight. Trauma oftentimes are at risk of opposition defiant disorder or narcissistic personality disorder, often are victims of prior trauma. They either grew up in turbulent environments, they either grew up in homes where they didn't have fathers or where they were neglected or they were abused as children, and they tend to take on very maladaptive characteristics that can lead to distress and struggle, not only with the people in their lives, but also in the community as well. But this is the pathology of a snake whisperer. As I said before earlier, righteous men follow order, and if they can't follow order, it's due to ignorance. A righteous man would never lead a person out of the order of the fold of the people in their lives. Righteous men don't do that. Righteous men always. Why do so many women love Derrick Jaxn, in you guys' opinion? You think it's the lack of having fathers, or do you think they just are so sensitive and immature they can't handle the truth, guys? What do y'all think? Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself, Ed. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself, guys.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go ahead while Ed going ahead and take care of that. I think it has to do with vanity. There's a take that no matter what is done by this individual or what they do, there's a lack of accountability. There's this sort of created atmosphere or simulation where reality just doesn't take place. He ultimately validates that even when I'm wrong, I'm right. And of course, I mean, you have a sort of archetype from the aspect of, a black man, which, it kind of serves, their deepest fantasies or whatnot. And so effectively, there's this sort of synergistic relationship where, he's being a narcissist himself, obviously for his own gain, whether it is monetary, whether it's status, or whatever the case may be. And other people get to use that as validation for some of the behaviors that they do. You will see this when it comes to other folks, case in point, not to mention anybody, but allegedly people like Candace Owens or whatnot, where you're telling people what they want to hear. So it's essentially prostituting yourself out to validate other people's points, no matter what. And so, he's willing to, give up, his figurative masculinity for money and not necessarily think about the repercussions of that.
Yeah, I agree with that. How would you like to add to it, Ed?
Yeah, so that's one of those things to where I think it's just words with women. Okay, a small percentage as far as maybe not having male figures around that really give them a good game, but I think a lot of those women did, and I think that was my pushback with the topics that was going on. I think last night it was stated that he was the only person to go to. And it's like, no, you have uncles, you have cousins, you have fathers that tell these women things about men in the street, because a lot of those guys maybe hustled or they knew the game of other men. They knew the game of the pastor. They knew the game of the pimp. They probably was old pimps themselves and was giving them game, and they didn't want to listen because he's an attractive man and he's the ideal of what they want.
Right.
He's the prototype of what they want. And so in their mind is no different than a pastor, to where, he got a wife and, he runs a church and he's supposed to be holy, but you will sleep with him because he's the ideal man of power.
Right.
So that's the thing that women equate with power, whether it's monetary, whether it's you have a calling from God, that means a lot to women. And so women kind of gravitate towards that. And so with Derrick Jaxn, he was the idea. So these thousands of women, even though they know I think initially they didn't know he had a wife because he didn't really speak about it. It wasn't up there. And then I think some point, that was the marketing part, right? Because you can look at this with artists. They don't necessarily say they married because you want people to think, I can be with that person one day. So I'm going to buy tickets. I'm going to go to their shows. That's part of marketing. And then at some point, it comes out that they're married and they got a husband or wife or whatever, but it's still that fantasy of, I still want to be with this person. And a lot of his followers, the women, wanted to be next in line. And you can see that because apparently he was digging them out, So
Right.
So that was the fantasy part of it, but I still, they were still supporting him, hoping to be that next one, hoping to be replacement of the wife. No different than a pastor. So he's basically a pastor to me. And he's a pastor, and he's the prototypical idea of what the majority of women out here want. So they'll just follow him. So nothing is going to change. Even if he's caught and everything's going on out, they're still going to follow him. And only thing that I've seen online is, well, we ain't follow him like that. And it's like, what? Y'all was going to combat for him, but now y'all saying y'all didn't trust him. So that's a whole different thing, you know. So,
Brother Shocks, why do so many women love Derrick Jaxn, in your opinion, brother?
Well, I mean, I think one could, point to like you said, aesthetics. I mean, there's a reason why, there's the wearing of muscle shirts. There's a reason why, there's the presentation of, being printed and prim. There's a reason as to why, there's these, different little compliments and things like that, and being sold, unrealistic possibilities and stuff. It's a drug, making people believe that, there's a chance at something, maybe somehow, some way I'm going to meet him. I'm going to actually go to, one of these seminars that he got, or sign up for bookings, and, I'm going to be that, choice person. Obviously, somebody believed and actually realized the dream, but that's a whole nother story. But, these sorts of things, actually, promote this sort of following. And if you notice, there is kind of this cult of personality effect. Okay, I'm not going to mention any other people out there. If people really pay attention, there's similar cults of personality out there in the sort of YouTube social media sphere, doing some of the same things or whatnot. This is why, when it comes to critical thinking tools, and not based on emotion, not basing it on your own value system or whatnot, will actually help you discern what is reality, what makes sense, and what is practical. It goes back to the basics of basic therapy, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, right? Mm-hmm. And if people aren't able to be armed with some of the critical thinking tools that they may have within themselves, or using things such as, the sort of cognitive distortions, so they're able to, highlight the sort of discrepancies within themselves, so they're able to be healed, along with, identifying some of the things among other people. Not that they should go out and diagnose people, but, traits in which you're mindful of that. Hey, this doesn't match up with the empirical. This doesn't match up with reality or the data and stuff like that. Then you will be more apt to be more emotionally, socially, logically, and even ethically calibrated. But see, a lot of people don't have any of those. They go by what feels good, and that's what emotion is. Right. This makes me feel good. Therefore, I'm going to continue with this. It's definitely a drug. It's just simply being sold. Dreams.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm finished looking at some of these points. And then we're going to ask ourselves the question, do narcissists actually support one another? It's almost what we call in the clinical world, and you guys are probably familiar with it, it's something called peer contagion. It's called peer contagion because I saw it happen a lot of times in prison, not to be too technical, but basically birds of a feather flock together. And when you get around people that have peer contagion, they can rub off on you in a negative way. And it seems like the ego of a lot of the women that we deal with is so maladaptive that they'd rather love the lie than to love the truth. And that goes back to a clinical term we talked about called the satanic ego. But I'm going to finish breaking things down. Hold tight, guys, about this guy. Hold tight. We're going to make it make sense. Hold tight. We're going to talk about Machiavellianism. Hold on.
To do not only what's best for the community, but also for what's best for the people in their lives that they love. They always put their self-interest at the back burner and put everybody else's needs on the front end. They're called the servant leader. But many times what you guys see now in modern American modern world is a percentage of men that are still causing the chaos. And I'm going to show you guys an example of what it looks like. And I'm going to also show you why I picked Derrick Jaxn as one of the men that represents that as well. But we're going to start with the Mac, or the pimp. Hold tight. We're going to start with the Mac. We're going to start with the Mac, and we're going to break this thing down. Many times, guys, the Macs use charisma and dependency. They use charisma and dependency. And what I mean by that, they will use sweet words to get you into a very toxic relationship. But many times, because some of these people that they're dealing with have what's called dependent personality disorder, they become codependent, meaning the victim becomes codependent
to the snake whisperer. They have no other choice but to rely on them. And many times that makes the snake whisperer feel good because the snake whisperer is a narcissist. And that makes them feed that narcissistic supply. They foster, as I said earlier, a codependent relationship. A codependent person do not have an identity outside of themselves. They always rely on others for validation. They rely on others to make them feel good about themselves. They rely on others for substance. They rely on others because many times they have a very low self-esteem. They're snake whisperers. And the snake whisperer knows the right words to say. That's why when I worked in prison, many times these men are very predatory. They prey on the weak. They prey on the broken. They prey on people that have been traumatized and victimized. And when you call them out on their BS, like I said, they're trying to either hurt you or make you feel like you're crazy. That's why you got to have values and standards that supersede what other people are trying to tell you. They are opportunists. Just like the Mac Daddy, you know, when he get those young girls on the strip, many times those girls are broken women. They're broken women that are often victims of abuse, many times sexual abuse. So the Mac, he knows what to tell them, you know, to make them feel good about themselves, because Macs many times have the same association as Machiavelli or Machiavellianism. The Mac will tell them what they want to hear. The Mac will say soft words to make them feel good, because they can look into the heart and the minds of a prey. They know how to tell them what they want to hear, and many times once they get them in the fold, they get addicted. Sometimes they get them addicted on drugs. They make them work the strip to give them money. But that's the art of a Mac, you know, because all Macs are not necessarily predatory, but many times Macs are. There's a type of Mac, and this means you just know how to talk to a woman, but you're not trying to hurt her. But a lot of times, I would say most Macs don't really give a damn about the woman. They're just trying to get between the legs. They know what to say. They know what to do. They know what kind of games to use to get her into a relationship or to use her and abuse her. That's the snake whisperer. And many times these people have unconscious pathology. Macs love to be the center of attention. That's why they wear fancy clothes, just like the serpent. We call it peacocking. I don't know somebody came up with that concept. I forgot the brother that talked about it. But my man Andre for Love Crossing Borders, they become peacocks. They become peacock, or they do what's called peacocking. And they want to be the center of attention. That's what Macs do. Macs love power. They often are broken men themselves, as I said earlier. They love to peacock like this Mac in this picture. They can be dirty Macs. You know, they'll block or try to make another man look bad to make themselves look good. That's what dirty Macs do. They have maladaptive thoughts. And as I said, you know, they all can have all the more of the similar traits that I talked about a minute ago. Shout out to my man Top Gun. He said that dope show tonight. We all encounter a snake whisperer at least one area in our lives, most likely regarding a woman, a job, and the list goes on. No doubt, brother. I appreciate it, Top Gun. Thank you, sir, for that $10 love offer, man. I appreciate it, brother. And
that's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
All the brothers, I appreciate it. But guys, if you like what I'm doing, donate to this channel. I really appreciate it. To the people that like what I'm doing, donate to the channel because these shows are very time consuming. And I appreciate the brothers and sisters that are listening on tonight. But let's look at the origin of Machiavellianism. These are the signs. All right, so to the therapist, before we go any further, what do you guys think about that breakdown real quick? I see you shaking your head, Brother Ed and Shots. Go ahead.
I think it was a great breakdown. I think that, you know, one key thing that would be great to be added, a couple of things, but I think it hits it definitely on the nail. But I want to give some more context and some theoretical underpinnings, if you know.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, brother.
If you know, so on one hand, one has to think about that, and a lot of people don't think about as far as pimp culture, is that a lot of those individuals, you know, are victims of physical and sexual abuse. And, you know, they externalize traits of, you know, particularly compensatory masculinity. if you notice how, you know, pimps, players, so-called max or whatever the case may be, know just the right things to set a woman off. Okay. They might say something like, oh, you got too much spread in between your nails, or, you know, or this, that, and the third. Only little particular details that women will know because of, you know, their sort of chameleonistic sort of presentation. They would know these things, you know. That's part of the manipulation. That's part of the influence or whatnot, right? The other thing I think is some good guidelines when it comes to narcissist or whatnot is looking at, if you mind putting on a jumbotron, brother, and I'm gonna send you this real quick.
Okay, hold tight. Hold on. You said
right.
You talking about what I had?
Oh no, this here, real quick. It's just a quick navigation. It's in the back chat right there.
Okay, all right, hold on. Give me 1 minute. Let me so I can pull it up. What is that? A clip?
You see? Oh no, it's just for reference. It's an encyclopedic. It's the
all right. Just okay. I see it. Hold on. Just keep talking. Keep talking. I'm trying to pull it.
So it's the 7 deadly sins, right? You will notice that a lot of narcissists actually use these things, these particular things, as to fuel their narcissistic supply or to manipulate others. Okay. Now, you know, I'm not, you know, on here to, you know, try to proselytize or anything like that, but those are very much some of the things that, you know, people use, whether it's lust, right? Gluttony, you know, anger, where, you know, people are fearful of being harmed, envy, you know, by getting women jealous of each other or even men jealous of each other. Pride, you know, when you boost people's ego and things like that. These here are the hallmarks of what they use. Okay. This is why they call Satan the first pimp.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So I just wanted to, you know, throw that in there.
Okay. All right. No doubt. Shout out to my man. What's his name? I can't think of his name. Shout out to my man. Documentals, respect, stay on it, gentlemen. No doubt, man. I appreciate it, brother, for that kindness, for your love offering. I appreciate it, brother, for the 20.
That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right?
I'm into it, guys, because snake whispers are dangerous. Let me see if I can finish pulling that back up for a minute. We're going to finish breaking that down. Hold tight, guys. And guys, if you have not gotten your book, go get that book by Brother Edward Fields called Emasculated. Good book. So go check it out. Let's finish listening to it. So is it safe to say, Shocks, and also Ed, that Derrick Jaxn has Machiavellian techniques? But before you answer that, I'm going to finish playing this, and you guys tell me what y'all see in Derrick Jaxn. Hold tight. Of Machiavellianism. They are only focused on their own ambitions and interests. Many of these dating coaches and these gurus, you know, the ones that try to shame men for traveling, getting passports, you know, they have Machiavellian traits. Just like the Mac, they have traits and they have tendencies that are predicated on control and manipulation. They prioritize money and power over relationships, like I said before earlier. Those are some of the traits of Machiavellianism. Machiavelli was a man of the past. He was a political influencer. Some of these politicians are snake whisperers because the word politic means to influence. That's what it means. And many times some of these politicians that y'all love are snake whisperers. A snake whisperer can be a man or a woman. But many times, because the topic of the show is about men that exhibit those kinds of behaviors, we're talking about men. Tonight we're talking about manipulative men that are snake whisperers. They come across as charming and confident, like I told you about the Mac. And I always wonder where did they get that word Mac from? And I think the word Mac really comes from the word Machiavellianism. Machiavellianism. That's where I think the word Mac comes from. I think a Machiavellianism is a byproduct of a man being a Mac. That's where I think it comes from. They lie and deceive when necessary, just like politicians, just like modern preachers, just like these love gurus like the Derrick Jaxns of the world. They will lie when necessary. See, they don't care about you women, you know, that listen to them. They don't care about you. They want your money. They want your influence. They want that attention that you give them. They want that supply because they are broken men, and many times they have narcissistic personality disorders, or they're part of what I call the dark triad of Machiavellianism, psychopathy, and also and narcissism. The dark triad, the dark three. They're all byproducts of those three. They use flattery often. They'll tell you, yo, baby, you know, I really like you. You know, I really love you. Why you keep putting me through all this kind of pain and hurt? You know, I really love you. I really care about you. But see, you be listening to your dad, or you be listening to some of those stupid men, and you need to be around a man like me that can make you feel good about yourself, because I got your best interest at heart. Only thing I need you to do is trust me and trust this process, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to give you the world, but you got to trust in me, like the serpent did to the woman. The serpent promised the woman power. The serpent promised the woman that she would get the gnosis, meaning she would get the knowledge. The serpent told the woman she would now, once she took of the bite or the forbidden fruit, she would know both good and evil, because good and evil meant she could have power. And that's what the snake whisperer do. He give you empty hopes and empty promises. Many of these men give some of you women empty hopes and promises. And some of you broken men, snake whisperers can deceive you too for their own gain. That's why I believe, and I truly believe this, that many of these snake whisperers get mad because when men begin to travel, it means the influence and the attention is coming off them. They want to have men under them to make them feel good about themselves, because they are broken men themselves. They lack principles and values. As I told you before earlier, guys, masculine men do not use deception to get money, or masculine men do not lie to you to get acclaim or to get between your legs or to get money or anything. Masculine men just keep it 100. They know they might lose money or they might not get status, but a masculine man gonna keep it 100 with you. That's what real men do. We don't lie to you, you know. We ain't gonna lie to you to get what we want. We're gonna try to keep it 100 and let you make a choice. But they often use flattery. They lack in principles and values. That's why I keep telling you women, you gotta have values. But more or less, the brothers that I'm talking to, y'all gotta have values. Because even though snake whisperers are mostly men, snake whisperers can be women too. You got to have values and you got to have boundaries, because your values will determine what your boundaries going to be. But see, when you don't have values and boundaries, then you are more susceptible to the voice of the snake whisperer. Because see, many times the snake whisperer is watching you, the snake whisperer is studying you, and many times, guys, the snake whisperer will tell you this.
Follow me, baby. The elders are old and out of touch. I have the power to help you become the better version of yourself. Listen to me. I know what's best for you. I am the snake whisperer.
When she's really good, ask now what? Then invest in her goals with Prudential.
It's dinner time with Panera, and it is fantastic.
Once a snake whisperer gets you wrapped up in his coils, he'll shed his skin and go to see somebody else, just like the snake in that clip that I showed you guys. They will shed their skin, and they'll go ahead and try to deceive somebody else, peacocking, flattering them, and using deception to get what they want. That's why a lot of times the prosperity pimps, the prosperity preachers, they have the same philosophies and behaviors of Marx and Machiavellianism. I heard somebody say that blue is a color of deception. And so many times snake whisperers use flashy clothes and flashy colors to get you into their illusion or their delusion. And because you don't have any ground, or you're not under the covering of strong masculine men, then you fall prey for it. And see, when other men... All right, so guys, what did y'all think about that breakdown of Machiavellianism? How often do you see it? How often do you guys see it in practice, starting with Brother Edward?
Yeah, you know, I think we talk about the dark triad, right? I actually broke down a good section of that. That's Paul Housen Williams kind of did that 2002. And that's one of the traits that most people will see. The psychopathy is pretty dark and hard. It's mental disorder, especially marked with egocentric and antisocial behavior. So usually you're going to get that criminal or violent aspect with that when you're dealing with antisocial behavior. It could be. But the Machiavellianism is what most people will see as far as in practice in relationships, to where people are just, they're doing anything to get what they want. Okay. And so sometimes it's like, hey, it's offensive, and sometimes it's not offensive. But I really attribute a big part of that to a lot of people are just in survival mode, you know, and they grew up a certain way and they're just trying to survive. And even in adulthood, it's like, hey, I'm just trying to survive. So if I got to lie to you to make it, I'm going to do it. If I got to crush your heart to do it, I'm going to do it. So the Machiavellianism is one of those personality characteristics that a lot of people walk around every day and in our society, because it's a society to where you got to make it. And so people are going to do whatever they can do to make it. And so, hey, it doesn't matter if it's amoral. This is the political aspect of Machiavelli of, hey, you know, no matter political theory, the view that politics is amoral and means are however unscrupulous and to justify achieving power. And so, I mean, on all aspects, whether dating relationships, whether it's career, it's the same thing. And so it's one of those characteristics that a lot of people possess. And yeah, people are just trying to make it and trying to get it. So not saying that it's right, but that's what a lot of people will see.
Yo, what did you think about that, real quick, brother Shocks, about Machiavellianism, the influence and the charisma of a lot of men like Derrick Jaxn?
I think that, you know, it's a play off of, you know, get it at all costs. You know, it's the same sort of mentality that, you know, proliferated drug dealers out in these communities or whatnot, pimps or whatnot. I have to eat, I have to get mine, or whatever the case may be. And you give people their daily fix. You know, it's just that it went from dope dealing to hope dealing, you know?
Right.
And, you know, people are, you know, vulnerable, and, you know, you see traits like the lack of empathy, no altruism whatsoever, a lot of distrust. I mean, you would hear a lot of people saying things like, excuse my language, it's a ghetto mantra out there that's pretty big on the West Coast, but it's like, you know, fuck all bitches and trust no niggas. So if that's the case, you know, you would even see tattoos like that. Okay. So, you know, if that's the case, you know, what is motivating you to live? Are you just simply living for yourself? And it's a sort of sick form of being. Now, here's the thing. The question is whether or not, you know, the sort of Machiavellianism, you know, transfers as far as, you know, the supply. Some people don't really care about the money. Some people care about power or fame. So, you know, money is, you know, one of the ways that are low-hanging fruit where you can easily see. But, you know, you might not necessarily know a snake if you're not really, really clear on what the end goal is. So, you know, just being mindful of that. I just want to caution people to think for themselves that it's not just quote unquote gold diggers out there. There's, you know, also people out there digging for other things, you know, like using you as a pedestal to validate that they are who they are, because they, you know, they might not necessarily be confident in what they are. And as you stated earlier, whenever you kind of quote unquote set a boundary, especially pushing a hard line against that, then you risk coming up against what they call a narcissistic rage. Usually people would, you know, do things that are a danger to themselves or other people, get you involved with something legally, or, you know, your reputation or whatnot, because they are so upset about being found out. Okay.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I'm going to show you something, Brother Shocks, real quick. Hold tight. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you guys some, but before I do it, let's finish listen a little bit more of this real quick. And then I'm gonna show you guys something real quick. But the girl, they try to tell you what they're doing. You get mad at them and say, "Oh, you're hating. Your mama's black." They'll say all kinds of goofy stuff because they don't want to hear the truth. Shout out to my man XL Pro for that $5 super sticker. Thank you, XL Pro. Thank you, XL Pro. They act aloof or really hard to get to know. They're cynical of goodness and mortality. I'm going to say it again. They are cynical of goodness and mortality. When men that are righteous try to tell you the truth, they become cynical. They say, oh, you don't have to listen to them. That's what the serpent told Eve. They try to make God seem like he was stupid. When men try to lead some of you women into the path of righteousness and lead you on the right course, you don't listen to him. You become cynics. You deny his leadership skills. You deny his abilities because you're listening to the voice of the serpent. And when you listen to the snake whisper, you begin the process of opening up Pandora's box. And Pandora's box is a byproduct of why the world is the way it is now, because of Pandora's box. They're capable of causing others harm in order.
Kayak can help you find a home away from home by searching millions of vacation rentals. Kayak, search one and done.
What's his name? I can't think of his name. Joel Osteen, Snake Whisperer. Creflo Dollar, even though he recanted about his abuse and his use of prostitution. So did you guys see a similarity between snake whisperers and modern preachers? And if so, what are the similarities? And then before you answer that, after you answer that, I'm going to show you guys something with this girl he was dealing with. But is there a similarity, guys, between snake whisperers and modern preachers in y'all's opinion?
Same thing. They're the same thing.
Break it down, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, they're the same thing. You know, I grew up in church, going to church 6 days a week. So I was able to see that young, that the pastor was the pimps and, they was out selling drugs and had prostitutes and all this. So it's one of those things to where, it becomes like a playbook. You want to sell things to women. A lot of people just look at the pastors, look at what they can say. And a lot of people fall in line. A lot of women fall in line with that. And so, if you look at it, a lot of these people that's out here lying to women, they're pretty close or have some idea how the church works. The church has been pimping people for the longest, and no disrespect to the church. I think a lot of people get what they need out of it as far as religion and spirituality, but it's the easiest place to go to really pimp people.
Yeah, sad it's gotten that way. This is the woman that he messed with, guys. He's dealing with or have continued to deal with. Do you guys feel like the narcissists actually massage each other's egos? And if so, how? This is the woman that he cheated on his wife with. And Red Lipstick did a good show at some point. I'm gonna do a show critiquing that. She did an awesome job breaking it down. Shout out to her. But do you feel like the narcissists many times assuage one another, guys, in y'all's opinion?
I think that is definitely a sort of, kind of effect where there is synergistic in nature, where, where people, they're feel it's worth their time and worth their energy or whatnot, because there's this sort of inflation. This person thinks they're important. And in my mind, have a sort of credibility with that. Narcissistic individual look to up their status and continue to up their status. I like to believe that they're an in crowd or have some sort of specialized pedigree, or that there's somehow or another the exception to the rule, or the exception to the norm. It all boils down to that,
Right. Do y'all think this lady got narcissistic traits?
Stop the wheel. Let me out this.
Y'all think she got narcissistic traits? Not saying she's a narcissist, but what do y'all see in this woman with the fake hips?
I think that she's just simply a byproduct of the zeitgeist of today. At the very best, an opportunist, because if it wasn't her, it would have been somebody else.
Right.
Or who's to say there's nobody else? I mean, remember at one point in time it was somebody else. So who knows?
Right. Why do you think men are attracted to women like this, man?
Well, I think so. I think it's twofold. Okay, I think if you look at the rappers, athletes, celebrities, this is the thing that a lot of people think that men are attracted to. I think the average everyday guy, they would probably sleep with them, but they don't necessarily want to be with them like that.
Right.
You know, and so I think it's a difference and something that most of us need to differentiate between what a lot of men want. So it's one of those things to where, yeah, you know, a lot of guys will probably knock her down if they had a chance to, but they know that she's not wife material. And I think that's one of the things to where, like, if you're a celebrity, if you have, you know, these are the women that are going to attract to you. And most of us deal with people that's attracted to us.
Yeah, and then she definitely got the traits of narcissist, man. You know, this excessive, aggrandizing, camera picture taking, addicted to self, addicted to image. She's got it all over her face. She's smitten with it. What else do you think about women like this, man? Yeah, go ahead.
You sure that's the only thing that she's been smitten with?
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, but yeah. So y'all feel like that people like this actually support one another
to some degree, whether it's indirectly or I think it's more so indirectly than directly. I don't think most narcissists. I don't think most narcissists really care about what other people think, right? Because that's the thing that we kind of get through. It's all about self. But I think it somehow coincides, and if it lines up to what they're doing, then that's all fine for them. You know what I'm saying? So I think it just kind of like perfectly integrate with each other, even though it's in an indirect way.
Yeah. Red Lipstick did a good job breaking things down. I'm gonna critique that show at some point. She did an awesome job. Call her the reporter. But is it safe to say that hedonism and narcissism actually go hand in hand? And if so, explain how. That goes back to what you were saying earlier, Shocks. But does hedonism and narcissism go hand in hand, guys, in y'all opinion? Y'all, unmute yourself.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things to where it's like with social media, right? Everybody could be seen. I could be seen. Everybody could sympathize with me. I could show off what I need to for attention, to feed my ego. It doesn't matter if I really look good or not. As long as I post it, it's people who are going to be like, hey, you look good, you know, and this, when you have like this body positivity thing, when you have like everybody looks good, yeah, I'm posting this stuff so I can feel better about myself, even though in my real life it ain't that. But long as I can pretend online and people can say, hey, you know, you look good because I'm showing off body parts, that kind of thing. Yeah, that'll assuage my ego, and that's what it is. And it doesn't matter if it's true or not. I just need my ego assuaged. So.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. Let's see one of my notes I wrote down. So nowadays, enablement play a role in the pathology that we see today. What role does enablement play in the narcissistic supply, in your opinion?
Enablement is, you know, the person that doesn't have boundaries. They become proxy subjected to the whims and will of, you know, the narcissist, as the narcissist is the primary, and the enabler is the person who, you know, fulfills or pays out that sort of currency, whether it's emotion, whether it's actual money, whether it's status or whatnot, to, you know, further validate the narcissist and, you know, what they believe they are. Okay. Now to get back to that you know, comment about the hedonism and narcissism, there's an unholy alliance between hedonism, narcissism, and nihilism, because there's the other side of it too, that nothing matters. Okay, no ethics. There's no real meaning of life, and so therefore I got to get what I got to get while I'm here or whatnot. Okay, so there's those three, not just the hedonism part, but nihilism and also the narcissism itself. But using people as chess pieces or whatnot. That's essentially what that is, and that's the crux of it. Where people aren't able to fully be able to think for themselves. They're constantly on eggshells. And in a way, sometimes enablers. Believe it or not, there is endorphins and other pleasure associated hormones with fulfilling the needs and the wants of the narcissists themselves. But then again, it's kind of like the narcissist continues to treat them as if they're a rat running on a sort of wheel, and so it could be this sort of sick dynamic of wanting to be dominating, wanting to be debased or used or whatnot. So let's not underestimate that element of it too, because there is a sort of masochistic part of it as well.
No doubt. I totally agree. Edward, men are being emasculated now. A lot of men are emasculated. Men are emasculated for a myriad of reasons. Part of that emasculation is a lack of fathers. Part of the emasculation is a lack of community. Part of the emasculation is a lack of development. All of that is an interplay or plays a role in the evolution of a man. That emasculation is also tied to narcissistic traits. It's also tied to the dark triad traits as well. But to the guys that are listening, this book might help save your life. Edward Fields IV commits a book that has a lot of great talking points, and those talking points can help get you the resolve that you need if you have not gotten the book. So if you haven't gotten the book, guys, go. I'm gonna drop the link and go get Edward's book called Emasculation.
Have you been distressed or perplexed? Emasculated, a book written by Edward Fields IV. Everything that needs to be known about men in modern time. Listen, men are not complex. They are misunderstood and unappreciated. Learn what men really feel, think, and desire. Also observe their struggle for acceptance, love, and belonging. A must read for every man in this classic book by Edward Fields IV, Emasculated. Go get your copy now.
All right, guys, one of the things I like doing, I like supporting black men and black male content. But as I told you guys, it's a little disappointing, man. I put these shows together, man, only 15 people in the stream. Don't know what's going on, but it's all good. I'm going to make some major changes soon. I don't know if it's the algorithm or not, but this is part of the frustration when we put these shows together from a clinical perspective to empower men. And sadly, our people say we won't help, but the things that need help, we're giving you guys critical information. About 3 therapists on the panel tonight, and it seems like only trash content is the kind of content that get good numbers. So I'm gonna make some reevaluation soon. But in the meantime, guys, the link has been dropped. Go check out my man's book. I brought these 3 brothers and a therapist on to give you guys some insight. But it appears that we don't value the things that's necessary to help us become better people. Let me ask you a question, man. You would think a stream like this should have been popping, Edward, and also Shocks. But sadly, streams like this, it's like, I don't know, man. I get it, but I don't get it. But go ahead, man. What's your take on it? And tell the people why they should go buy your book. But before you tell them about that, tell them about your formative years, your education, what school you went and what you studied in. Or you can share the school if you choose to.
Yep, went to Oakland University, Rochester, Michigan, master's degree in counseling. I worked inpatient, hospital mental health, county outpatient, So I've done a lot of therapy, got a lot of years, experience. Work with children, adults, work with everybody, kind of open population. So I see the back end of everything. I know, Kosher is doing a great job of bringing this content, bringing a clinical perspective. And I really need you guys to like his channel and to share his channel. And one of the things is the trash content. I mean, it's shared around and things that actually there to help. A lot of people, don't grasp onto that until it's too late. And so it's one of those things to where like, you don't ever want things to get too late to work on them. You want to work on them when they are a problem and they're small, before they get big. So it's one of those things to where like this channel is one of the best channels out. Support him, and really keep it moving so he can put this content out here. But as far as mental health, it's really rampant. I'm seeing it with children, 7, 8, 9-year-olds inpatient hospital, and this is not even on an outpatient level. This is inpatient. This is partial hospital. So it's one of those things to where like a lot of the resources there, but you guys got to grab onto that. And I understand that the trash content is a little spicy and it kind of fired that in the brain to where that excitement to where I see the drama and the beefs and everything, because it is a chemical reaction when people watch those things. If you really look it up, it's a chemical reaction that happens in the brain when you see that drama and that spicy and that kind of thing. But also, we need that information out there that's really going to help us to progress. And this is a channel. So, please just really, really share this channel and really get it out there. And so
Business said, my man Business said information needs to be reframed. I thought we did a good job of reframing. I don't think you can reframe it no more than you can.
I would like to know what he means by that. Like it needs to be reframed to like it needs to be in a trash con. I'm not understanding. Like it's pretty straightforward. So I would like some clarity on that for myself. So I'm not necessarily saying that he's wrong. I would just like to know, like, reframe what does that mean? That could mean a lot of things. The emasculation of the American male is talking about society and how men are silenced. And it's one of the things where when these channels on YouTube that talks about male, I wouldn't necessarily say empowerment, just men having a voice. Maybe 20 to 30 years we've heard and seen daytime television shows just crap on men with all women audiences, and men really didn't get to say anything. And it's, all believe women. And listen, it's about really what's right? So whether you're a man or a woman, if you're telling the truth, then you need to be heard. But it's one of those things to where, men are deleting themselves daily because of the stress of being a man. And if people don't believe that, it was actually a lady who was kind of like kind of asexual. She actually wrote a book, and she went on a journey to be a man for like a year and actually deleted herself because she actually felt what it felt like to be a man. She was saying that she was mistreated because of being a man. She was a woman, but she was pretending to be a man for a year. And the way that women treated her, it made her delete herself. And so she was actually to see like how it is to be a man in society. So it's one of those things to where is we talk about it, and we're just trying to have a voice and put a voice out here for people that can see it. And it's not to bash women. I think a lot of people think that when you get that opposing view to say, hey, this is what men experience, and it's like, well, women experience that. Yeah, we understand that, but most men actually try to work on, and society ingrains into most men that you need to address women's concern, and no one's addressing men's concern. So it's not about a right or wrong. It's not about who's better. It's just men are just trying to be heard.
I want you to tell the audience why they should get your book. And Brother Business makes some good points. And this one of the clips I actually showed earlier. I'm gonna run that. But I'm gonna tell you guys, actually, doing this kind of work, when you're being technical and giving technical terms, it's so much you can do without diluting the product. And I actually did that earlier, but I'm gonna show This is one of the clips I did act earlier. I'm gonna end the stream in a few minutes. But before we do, I want you to tell us why you should get your book. Hold tight.
Yeah, we tried to warn you. It appears that Derrick Jaxn has filed for divorce from his wife. Derrick Jaxn's the type of guy that when Kevin Samuels was living, he tried to warn you about. And so many men in these spaces, as men like Derrick Jaxn lie to women, and they keep women in a state of suspended animation. Many men like Derrick Jaxn are actually narcissists or have narcissistic traits. And also men like Derrick Jaxn also have Machiavellian tendencies. What can we learn about this ongoing debacle where men in these spaces lie to women to garner favor or pander to women and tell them what they want to hear? Derrick Jaxn is the reason why so many women are suffering and dealing with mental health issues because they don't tell them the truth. They lie to them. Where do we go from here? What say you?
All right, so why should people buy your book real quick, Brother Edward? And those were some of the clips that we actually did earlier. One of the ones I did when I first brought it in. But real quick, why should they buy your book? And if you feel free to say, well, actually, I'm going to let you tell it because I don't want to give it away. But, without telling too much about your book, why should they get your book without giving up too much information?
Brother Ed, you muted.
You're muted, brother. You're muted.
Brother.
You're muted. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Hold tight.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah. You're gonna have to reframe that.
Okay. Reason you should get the emasculation of American male is because it just avoids you going through everything that you see a lot of men on YouTube going through, from divorce and struggling after divorce and barely can make it, to mental health concerns associated with divorce, and family. The more knowledge you have, the better it is. So it's one of those things to where it's going to open up and it's good for you and your family. So, go out and get it.
Well, we got one Brother Business say he'll be buying the book. And Brother Business, if you would like to, man, pop on for a minute, man, to add to the conversation before I end this stream, because you're right. Hold tight. Brother Business, I'd love to hear from you. But, being a therapist, and I believe you said Shocks, you had a YouTube channel at one point. Not Shocks, but Brother Edward. It's very difficult. You can do it. I can really kill this thing, but it's almost like you feel like you're selling your soul when you get too trashy. You got to mix it in, streak of lean, streak of fat. And I think I do a damn good job of mixing in clinical concepts. But if anybody want to come on the stream and ask Brother Edward a question, y'all feel free to pop in for a minute, man. Then we're going to end the stream. But go ahead, man. What about your book that people need to know before they purchase it, man, without giving out too much information?
Yeah, it's straightforward with a lot of life solutions. So I looked at different areas of what was going on. I looked at how divorce affect men, how child support, false allegations of child support, how men paying child support, that the child's not theirs. So I just break down a lot of those things, and actually it has some personal testimony of men that went through that. So you actually see a kind of a real life scenarios of men and how it affected their lives, and how some men was able to get out of it and some men weren't. So it's one of those things to where this book is so much information in there. Like, you just got to get it to see it. And it's one of those things that it definitely would change your life and the perspective and everything that's going on.
What's been some of the good things that men have said about your book, man? Why what they liked about it, without giving out too much information?
Yeah, so I ended up getting some reviews, and people were like, what, this was spot on, because I was going through a breakup, and I was able to read your book, and I was able to really reground myself and really look from a different perspective. I had individuals say, what, I was in a child support system, and it was just like tearing me up. You know what I'm saying? And I was depressed, and I felt like I couldn't make it. But reading your book, I realized I wasn't the only man going through that. I even had women that say, what, I actually learned a lot about how men think, because it's one of the things that breaking down as far as a lot of women don't really study men and really look at and really listen and hear what men have to say, and as far as expressing emotions. And not understanding why when you dismiss a man's emotions, he would never really open himself back up to you a second time.
Right, right. Give me 1 minute. Brother Shocks, before you leave, any closing comments before you leave, Brother Shocks?
I would say that, people should look up the Gray Rock method, just so that they're able to, learn early warning techniques so that they're able to aptly deal with a narcissist. I would say that, don't get hyper vigilant to the point to where you're thinking that everybody's a narcissist. But I would also say that, be mindful of what people's end goals are. It might not necessarily be as obvious. As they say, time is the best healer, but also the best revealer. Okay. With that, thank you for having me here, Kosher. And Ed, I'm going ahead and throw my info on the back check there. And I will be seeing you brothers around.
All right, thank you, Brother Shock.
All right, no doubt. All right, so anything else you would like to add, Edward, about Derrick Jaxn and if you see these type of pathologies moving forward before I end this stream, real quick.
Yep. So for all the ladies, I understand it's easy to see someone that you think the ideal version of a man, and that's what you gravitate to. But, you also have fathers, uncles, brothers, and cousins, males that can actually give you better information because they don't have necessarily an interest in providing it. It's just the interest is for you to be a better person. It may not be for monetary gain or sexual or anything like that. So it's one of the things to where, being able to listen to other males and males that could give the same information, better information and really legitimate information, and they ain't bleeding your pockets dry with putting some crap out.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. It's been a pleasure and an honor, man, to support you in the book, man. But I wanted to use your book as a template along with Derrick Jaxn, because emasculation is a byproduct of lack of self-awareness, but also it's a part of some women having either narcissistic personality disorder due to neglect or abuse, or them having narcissistic traits due to entitlement and social media. They all coalesce and play a role hand in hand. Before we end the stream, what did you get out of tonight's show? And where do we go from here, real quick?
What I got out of tonight's show is that y'all need to hit these likes and you need to share this content seriously. Because, it's easy to put out content that's spicy, that means nothing, that's not going to help you all. But it's one of those things to where, you put this content out and the individual like Kosher is really bringing a clinical perspective. Like a lot of people can't do this. People can give advice, but a lot of people don't have the clinical backing that Kosher has. So share this information, like this page. And, another thing is as far as support. And that's what I get out of it. It could be good support. And it could be bad support. Good support is supporting this channel. Bad support is supporting Derrick Jaxn. He lying and taking money. So
it is what it is, man. It's just the zeitgeist, the spirit of this age, man. I'm gonna be fine, man. I just wish we would take it more serious, but maybe we just don't value as much mental illness. But it's all good. Before we end, guys, we're gonna play another clip of the show. And Edward, I appreciate it, brother, you coming on, man. I'll talk with you in the end, man. And the guys, once again, the link has been dropped. Go get his book. Go get Brother Phil's book, Emasculation. I don't know what the front cover is. But Emasculation
of the American Male.
Of the American Male. Let me ask you a question. Do you think it's an issue with more white men or black men, or you think it's both?
It's both. It's both now. And one thing I say is this: when you're dealing with a like-kind issue, you really need to pay attention. And so it's easy for black men to say, "Well, the lawsuits and everything, and white men deleting themselves because of loss of family and money, we don't care about that." But on the back end, that will eventually affect you.
Right.
And so that's one of those things to where you're dealing with societal hierarchy, those kind of things, it eventually falls down to you. Right, so that's one of the things to where, it really needs, it's for both.
Right. I agree. All right, well, I'm going to play this. I'm going to run it by you again, man. Run his book ad again, guys. Go check it out. I'll count on honor to endorse this brother. And perhaps if you guys get the book, it can help you deal with some issues that have led you to being emasculated.
Have you been distressed or perplexed? Emasculated. A book written by Eric Fields IV. Everything that needs to be known about men in modern time. Listen, men are not complex. They are misunderstood and unappreciated. Learn what men really feel, think, and desire. Also observe their struggle for acceptance, love, and belonging. A must read for every man in this classic book by Eric Fields IV. Emasculated. Go get your copy now.
All right, Brother Edward, man, it was a pleasure once again having you on, man. I'm about to sign off, man, and I'm going to go back and sit back and relax and look at some football. But anyway, man, thank you for tuning in. I'm going to meet you on the back end, man. We'll talk in a minute, and I'll see you in a few minutes. Guys, thank you for tuning in. It's about 27 minutes after the hour, 10 o'clock. I appreciate you brothers and sisters tuning in on tonight. Got some things up my sleeves at some point. But once again, to all the faithful that decided to use your time to come and listen to the show on tonight, even though we're not large in number, we are large at heart, and I appreciate the faithful few that always show love, guys. So I appreciate it. And like I said, guys, we're going to sign off. And guys, do me a favor, share the stream and go check out Brother Edward's book. So on that note, guys, we are signing off. Tonight, as we talked about emasculation, have you been emasculated? And if so, when are you going to start setting boundaries and parameters around your life? Thank you guys for tuning in. Be well.
Yeah.